Okay, welcome back to our grand finale. I've got my party dress on because it's the end and I'm so excited. I've been dancing around the bedroom to some head candy house music to get me really stoked up for this afternoon because this topic, I mean, most of the topics have been like dear to my heart, but this today's is a fab topic. Here she comes now, our trauma expert. Oh, more people coming. Hi, T.
Hi,
Hello. How are you?
good. How are you all?
Oh, we're all excited to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. Apologies for my delay in my.
Oh, no, no, it's fine. Don't worry. It's just the way it goes, isn't it? So the theme today is, drum roll, please. Find it. It is turning your wounds to wisdom, which really is the work of the healer archetype. So we are going to take questions, and obviously any questions related to whatever you feel you want to speak up on today is totally fine. But really, the theme is how to become a trailblazer, turning wounds to wisdom. So let me let these ladies in. How does that resonate with everybody? Becoming a trailblazer. I don't know why I came up with that, but the theme that is just on repeat with healers and practitioners is the fear of stepping out of the conformity that they find themselves in, environment, family, society, religion, culture, all of that. So to become a trailblazer is you lead the way for other people, but it means that you have to in some way walk your own path, and that in itself can be such a stumbling block for people. There will be so many people who have something inside them, and I've met them when I've been on training courses and conferences. Mum and dad made me be a lawyer, made me be a doctor. It's not who I am. It's not who I want to be. I had burnout, and that was the catalyst for my change. There are so many people who have that conformity and who never live the life that they're destined to. What a shame is that. So we've got Dr. Tegan Elm with us today, and as I've said to you yesterday, T is, I love her to bits. She's trained in chakra alchemy with Soul Awakening Academy, and she teaches as well. So you get her expertise on the spiritual facilitator training. Um, she's so cool. So I'm gonna let her say hello, and I'm gonna introduce all the other amazing panelists that we have. I've interviewed all these ladies for International Women's Day, so you can hear their stories because each of us have been to the depths and we've come back again. So we're all inspirations in our own right, as are you. And what we've done is we've followed our passion regardless. And this is, we've made it into a career. So, Tegan, just say hello. Introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Big love, Anne Marie.
Big love
You.
to you.
And it's so good to see Joe and Ellen as well.
Yeah.
Um, Met last year, didn't we? So lovely to see you and everybody else as well on the call. It's so lovely to be surrounded by all of this energy. And I'm really grateful to join the call today. I think that this week has been amazing. I've been catching up on the replays.
Yeah.
So much wisdom, and I always think we have so much experience, we have so much expertise in our experience, don't we? So we are all experts in what in our lives and what we have been through and what we continue to go through. And when you were talking then, Anne Marie, about trailblazing, I was just, it reminded me of what we often talk about when we talk about intergenerational trauma and being the person that breaks that intergenerational cycle,
Yeah.
that intergenerational wound. And I think it's really interesting, isn't it? Because when we start talking about the word trailblazer, I often think about healing,
Mhm.
and there is that intergenerational trauma that we carry with us, but with that comes intergenerational healing. And I think there's something really magical and special about that. Um, for those of you who missed my interview for International Women's Week, I'm Dr. Tegan Bridey Solis, and I am a lecturer in criminology, policing, and trauma-informed approaches. So trauma is my specialism. My PhD was focused on trauma, particularly with children who commit crime. But now I've branched out to look at trauma in many different ways. And I'm really pleased to be with you all today. And as Anne-Marie said, I have been with the Soul Awakening Academy for quite a while now, doing
Yeah.
the courses myself, and using some of those healing modalities, and also teaching with the Soul Awakening Academy as well. So looking at the really in-depth look at trauma in relation to the stories held within our chakras, but also our inner child trauma and wounds, and those kinds of things as well. So it's great to see you all today. I'll pass to somebody else now.
Amazing. Thanks so much. And yeah, children in crime, crikey, that was an experience that I did have, in my early years, going into the care system and experiencing that myself. And a lot of it comes around to modeling behavior and not having a good behavior model to replicate. I did have a life-changing moment in the care system. This little old lady, I think I tell this story in print somewhere, where she just said something. She must, I'm assuming now she followed the Buddhist tradition or something, and or even the Christian, she said about moving mountains. I know that's in the Bible, and it just planted a seed. She said, you can move mountains with your mind, and that seed at that age, I must have been about, I don't know, 12, 11. That was the first time that I ever thought about the power of your mind, because she then made me want to try and move objects with my mind. It was just a simple thing, but that grew in me and it stayed with me. She really planted something in my mind there. So, and in a way, although I actually don't remember seeing her much after that, but her behavior, something she did, I was able to model a little bit of. And key influences in my life in the care system were those people who actually cared. So it was a way for me to model behavior. I'm not saying like I didn't have great parents in the beginning. I did, just didn't work out. But when you're at that tender age of going through the care system, and you're at that age where you're wanting to fit in, that's when you're a great catch for crime to go in and get swallowed up. So the reason I'm saying that is, whose behavior are we all modeling? Because we all have a version of success. We can see it out there, and some people get caught in comparing. But if you like an attribute about something, why can you not then become it yourself? You can always try different characteristics and see if they fit you. And that's not to say that you're faking it. But if you spot something, amazing in something, in someone, you also have the ability to be that too. Thanks, Tegan. Right, Ellen, beautiful girl.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, lovely to see
Oh, it's
everybody.
lovely to see you.
Oh, isn't there just gorgeous energy already on this call?
Yeah, you look gorgeous. I love seeing all your faces again. We
Oh,
were all together at a retreat, weren't we, last year. I am running another one at the end of the year, October. So it'll be a lovely experience. I'll invite you all back in. But yeah, that's the last time we were all together.
yeah, it was lovely. Oh, it's really nice to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Hmm.
Um, so is it an introduction?
Yeah, just tell everybody your name, what you do.
Yeah, so Ellen, I done training over the years with Anne-Marie, the spiritual facilitator training, the 7 steps to spiritual alchemy, the life coaching.
Yeah.
And I predominantly work one-to-one with women now, mainly female leaders who are experiencing burnout, the high flyers in a career or business, but, juggling it, and groups, working in women's groups, love working with, large groups, find that really energizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just loving the journey of coaching and the power of it.
Yeah. And you've gone from burnout yourself, haven't you, running a big, massive organization, feeling that responsibility just not aligning with you anymore, experiencing burnout, and then finding your kind of true path in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you were saying at the start about sometimes you have to walk that different path, and it can feel so against the grain of what society and people around you are defining as success, but you've got to really connect to that intuition and what's right for you. And I think that's been the big part of my own journey, is really going inwards and taking brave steps.
Yeah, well, it's so lovely to have you here with us, Ellen. Thank you.
you.
Caroline?
Hi, yeah, it's great to be here. I'm Caroline Carroll. I met Anne-Marie, it's back end of 2020, when I was searching for something other than what I was doing, which was working in a corporate role. And I found looking for spiritual life, I think, and something a bit deeper than what I'd been doing, which was a lot of business coaching and sales coaching. I found Anne-Marie and then qualified as the Master Spiritual Life Coach on her main course, and then started my own company called Energy Inspired Coaching, and helping professional ladies who are suffering with high functioning anxiety, which can lead to burnout and perfectionism and procrastination and all sorts of different things, which I'd actually experienced myself. And recently, in the last year, I've qualified as a somatic therapist as well, which has really helped me to go even deeper into, how people are really suffering but are suppressing those emotions and not letting them come out. So they end up coming out in a physical way, whatever we try and do or don't do, and it's recognizing that. And so I help with that as well. So it's been great. It's been a wonderful journey, and I couldn't have done it without Anne-Marie and the Source Awakening Academy.
Yeah, I've loved watching you just grow, from where you were to what you're, just the confidence that's grown in you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, shall we say. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you for being here today, Caroline.
Thank
Joe?
you.
Hi, my name's Jo, and I probably the same as Caroline, actually started with Anne-Marie probably in 2020, really, doing the spiritual master's life coaching, and then I've probably gone on to do various other courses as well with the Soul Awakening Academy. I'm sort of a spiritual life coach, and I'm a master energy healer. So I work with women who are working with them, embodying their feminine power and their inner wisdom. As women and everything, we have all this amazing gifts and talents hidden inside of us that's deeply suppressed within our bodies. So I work with women to actually unlock that and release their power and everything. Particularly for me and everything, I very much work in the sacral and the womb area. Mainly because that is my own wounds, my own journey. So as a trailblazer, I actually turned my wounds actually into my gifts.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, and everybody can catch your interview as well. So they are coming out soon, by the way, ladies. They'll be delivered through YouTube and on a podcast series as well. So they are all being lined up to produce. Amanda?
Hi again, it's me again.
So yeah, like everyone else, that's really lovely to hear everyone's stories actually. But like everyone else, my Wounds into Wisdom story is I was a teacher in the classroom for 20 years, and I experienced chronic pain, debilitating chronic pain. I was in and out of A&E. I was taking 30 tablets a day to get myself through the day, really, really unwell. No one could find out what was wrong with me. They thought it might be adhesions from my C-sections. I've had 3 boys by C-section. And ultimately, they reached the end of the road with medical profession and offered me a hysterectomy when I was 42, which I didn't want, or long-term morphine. And I said no to both, and then found through meditation and mindfulness that I could release emotions that I'd suppressed within my body. And as I learnt to release those emotions and sit in presence and feel the pain rather than turn from the pain, I healed myself from the pain, and I'm no longer in pain. Wow. And I'm no longer taking medication. So my business is called Free to Be Me, because that's my journey. And like everyone else, you you teach what you know, you teach what you live, but you have to go through it in order to teach it and stand for it. So my journey is now, my business is about empowerment, empowering women. Particularly, I also do work with men, but it's about empowering women and just reminding us that we have, again, so much power within us, and so many choices available to us when we can't see. If you can't see a choice, you don't know it's there, it's not there for you. So it's about just reminding women of the choices that we have, and then the really deep healing journey, which is within, and because the physical pain I was experiencing had a lot of anxiety alongside it as well. It was the cycle between anxiety and pain, which I was very aware of, and taught myself how to break that cycle, and that's incredibly powerful too. So yeah, it's great to be here again.
Yeah, what a story, Amanda. That's incredible. Thanks for sharing that. That is phenomenal. Right. In our normal fashion. So I'm seeing some familiar faces, some new ones. Thanks for all being here again. Let's make today an amazing finish. So you have direct access to us. You've got such a wealth of experience here. Let's answer some questions. Don't be shy today. This is the last day that you'll have us all in this capacity. Shout out your questions. How can we help you? Do you feel there's any blocks to you becoming trailblazers? Do you feel you want to know how to turn your wounds into wisdom? Let's just open the floor. Anybody have a question? Does anybody have a topic they would like us to talk about? I have one, but I'll just see if anybody has a topic they'd like us to discuss. So let me go to the questions that have been sent in for this particular topic, and we can answer some of them. One of them says, I'm stuck in trauma mode, fight, flight, since 4 years old now. She's now 32, and she's been on a spiritual evolution path for the last year. What kind of advice, not advice, without knowing the full picture, but what can we help somebody understand? That's such a long time to actually, recognize their body's been in that level of trauma since 4 years old. What would we say to her as kind of practitioners, coaches and therapists?
Is it okay, Anne-Marie, if I come in on that, Caroline?
Yes, go for it.
Yeah,
Don't wait for an invite, just shout out.
Yeah. I think firstly, the fact that this person has recognised that is a real step forward, because many people go through their lives and might not ever recognise that, and suffer because of that, because it will come out in lots of different ways. It's hard to answer without knowing sort of more deeply the whole story, and also what she's doing already. But I would certainly say that a spiritual daily practice is important, and that could be meditation, journaling, tapping, anything like that that works for her or him. Sorry, I'm presuming it's a her.
Yeah,
It could be him.
I don't know.
And finding that can really be transformational, and then you start recognizing those triggers of what's bringing you into that fight and flight state, and also being able to expand your window of tolerance, which is for those who don't know about that, is that it's actually, it can, when you've had trauma, that window of tolerance can be very small, and the more you can expand that, the more the triggers don't seem so intense, and you can come out of it faster. So it's that daily practice yourself, that you need to find out what that is that works for you, and being consistent with that would
Lots
be
of
my
self-reflection.
guidance. Yeah, a lot of self-reflection, and certainly not beating yourself up when you feel yourself going back into that fight and flight, because you will, if that's where you've been for such a long time. Your body will want to keep going back into that. And I know this from personal experience, so I'm talking from about the age of 6, I was the same. So I do understand what that person is going through.
Yes, thanks. And trauma, as Dr. T will tell us, it's not how we may have once perceived it to be. Now there's this big catalogue of events and situations and experiences that a child can experience and can be classed as trauma, because a trauma is something that happens to the nervous system, and it's experiential, not situational. So it's how we internalize an event rather than what the event actually is. So somebody having a sick parent when they were a child, the child internalized it. It can be traumatic for the child. If a child has a parent who's incarcerated, or a close family, that can also be classed as trauma as well. Poverty and that kind of thing can all lead to a dysregulated nervous system. And one topic I have been thinking about lately is when we're in business. Now, this is something I'm actually thinking about personally, is my attachment style. So Dr. Tegan, you can help us out here, but John Bowlby with the attachment theory is incredible. So secure attachment is where we want to be. And that's somebody who's very kind of can regulate quite easily, can feel safe in relationships. But there are other relationship styles, such as avoidant, anxious attachment, fearful, avoidant, dismissive, or maybe more, I'm not quite sure. I can't remember, but I was thinking, what am I? Because, I have this tendency to fear situations, fear groups of people, would rather be on my own. That can be like a fearful, avoidant style. And without knowing these different aspects of us, we can just think, oh, that's just me. But it's not. It's just a conditioned behavior due to an experience that you've had, where for safety, I go that way, when actually my opportunities might lie that way. So I could be missing out on so many opportunities because, there's a little bit of work that needs to be done. And these attachment styles can be worked through, can't they, T? It's not fixed. It's not who we are naturally. And that's so, like, all the studies were done on, was it monkey? I know it was babies, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had Strange Situation with Mary Ainsworth.
Right.
But there was a study with monkeys on the maternal deprivation theory, which Bowlby originally did, but
Yeah.
then came to realise actually that he sort of disregarded the maternal aspect, because that actually it might not be the mother that can be the predominant caregiver for that child. But you're absolutely right. We're not, with attachment theory, it's one of the busiest theories in psychology, and it's really interesting to look at because for quite a long time there was this understanding of attachment theory that actually we had a fixed attachment theory that was replicated in our adult intimate relationships. Now there's more of an understanding that there can be more fluidity around our attachment styles based on the experiences of relationships that we have when we get older. So if we have a really different relationship to one that our main caregiver relationship mimicked, actually our attachment style can change.
Yeah.
The thing with that is that there is kind of an innate seeking within us to replicate our childhood experiences, and that's where individuals might struggle with that attachment relationship again, because there's lots of reasons why we want to go back to what we've experienced in childhood. A lot of it is around trying to get control over the situation where we didn't have that power as a child. So as we get older, we mimic similar relationship styles because now we think actually we can get some of that control back that maybe we lost as a child. So there is lots of really interesting work within the attachment theory world. And as you said, Anne-Marie, for many of us, trauma was more subtle than what we might first think of when we think of trauma in childhood, or even actually trauma at any point in our lives. It can be more subtle, and it can be that layered trauma that really dysregulates our nervous system. And there's a process when we experience something traumatic, which is about the internal process rather than what's happening to us externally. So rather than the event itself being trauma, actually it's what's happened to us internally. And that's where the trauma lies. Who was there for us during that period? There's often an absence of connection when there's trauma experienced. And the other thing sort of I think that's really poignant with trauma is that the majority of trauma, there's a relational component in there. It's very difficult to think of a trauma.
Yeah.
The exception of natural traumas where someone's natural disaster, but even then,
It's too.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It is all about connection, isn't it? You know, that naturally we are humanely designed to connect with other people. It's the quality of the relationships and the modeling of the behavior that conditions us as adults. And the reason I'm saying it is because I'm always trying to analyze myself. I'm always trying to improve myself, basically. And the more I learn about this stuff, the more, insight it gives me into me. And I was thinking then about, so we don't really separate our relationships. If I have a relationship attachment style, that just doesn't end and start with an intimate partner. It filters into the rest of my world, including my business. So that's where I've been like really kind of going, okay, what am I like with my team? If I have this kind of maybe fearful, avoidant attachment style, how do I then how does that show itself in me and filter into my business dealings with my team? So that's just something that I've been thinking about lately. So when people say about success, lack of confidence, fear, procrastination, I can't start my business because, then I'm thinking, okay, those things are just things in your head. They're not real. But is it down to their attachment style?
Yeah, I think it absolutely can be reflective of the relational circumstances that they found themselves in, because every single one of us, regardless of what we've experienced, want to get into that connector mode. We really want to, with all of those relationships, feel safe and social and get that safe and social response back. So that's where we're aiming to go. But with the survival mechanisms kicking in that I think we mentioned earlier, the fight, the flight, but also the fawn and the freeze. You know, I don't know if anyone else on this call is a recovering people pleaser.
Most probably.
Is that so?
Oh, God, yeah.
All of that is, we were programmed in our childhood, in our relational experiences, to actually, we're programmed to survive. That is what we innately have to do. And so those survival mechanisms, although they can feel very overwhelming when we're not in a place of trauma, and we're still back to those points in and those they're mimicking themselves in our relationships. Actually, the best thing we can do for ourselves is think, well, this is what helped me survive when I needed it. Go into that safety mechanism is what helped me survive. Now our body's in overdrive, and actually it relies on some of that survival mechanism when we don't need it. But actually it's not a bad thing. It's totally normal for your body to go into that survival response, that fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And we can live for many, many years in a functional state of those, of the one or more of those states. And what tends to happen is there's a bit of a misconception around the neuro development. So lots of people think that if you experience trauma, your brain doesn't develop fully, but actually there's an overdevelopment of the amygdala. And what that means is that we will perceive threats where there's not threats necessarily, and that is what keeps us into those functional states. So as you say, Anne-Marie, if there's experiences in business where we think, you know, we go back into that mode.
Yeah,
precisely.
yeah.
It's us kind of reliving that attachment pattern, but that doesn't mean that can't we have to, I suppose, first of all get used to that feeling of being comfortable with discomfort, because it's really uncomfortable actually sitting with those feelings and thinking, why am I feeling this way? Because I'm not in danger at the moment, but all of a sudden my body has gone into this moment. And I suppose the other thing to consider is there anything to do with my intuition that's switched on here, that's plugged in, that's telling me, oh, okay, what do I need to know about this situation? So it's really reflecting on yourself and how you're feeling in that moment, but also drawing on some of those sensations in your body to identify what that emotion behind what you're feeling is. So for example, if there is if you're experiencing an increased heart rate, shakiness, your breath is quick, short, you've got butterflies in the stomach, well, straight away I would probably say that that's fear that you're experiencing. What's the message then behind that fear? Well, it's a threat to safety. How are we going to feel safe now in this situation? If you're feeling heaviness or low energy, which actually, you know, when you talk to a lot of people, that's really where they are, aren't they? They're at that low energy, fatigued state. They might have aches in their chest, aches in their stomach, lumps in their throat. A flat tone of voice can be this. What's the emotion there? Well, I would say sadness. Message, loss. So many of us will experience loss through our lives, won't we? And we hold on to that loss for such a long time. It's really difficult to actually move on from that loss. We could have experienced it years ago. That could be, you know, hugely traumatic for us, but we store it in our bodies, and that comes out in.
It's really interesting. Ellen, if you don't mind sharing, you experienced the fawn state, didn't you, when you experience chronic fatigue. Is that right?
Yeah, so it turned. Can you hear me all right, by the
Yeah.
way? Mic on. Yeah, I had been very much in like kind of functional freeze for a long time after closing my business. Um, and I was just getting literally physical symptoms all the time. As soon as something became too much, it was like my body would just start to shut down, and I'd have brain fog, my glands would swell. I'd just literally be bedbound because my nervous system was just completely dysregulated from working at such a high level for so long, and obviously suppressing so much. That when I did stop, my body just like literally went to pieces. So I've really had to work on regulating my nervous system. So all those somatic practices have been so powerful, and it's just very gently widening that window of tolerance. So now I can really relate to what you're saying, Anne-Marie, about as a business owner, it can really trigger you outside of your window of tolerance, especially if you've got a lot of unprocessed trauma, and maybe you are a people pleaser and care about a lot about what others think about you. It can really get you on that other side. And it's really interesting though, because when I was obviously had unprocessed trauma, I would just work, work, work and not even think about these things. And it was only when I stopped and realised how dysregulated I was that now I'm so aware of not pushing myself too much outside of it, because my body will very quickly show me now.
Yeah, that's so true. Thanks for sharing that. And I've got a bit of brain fog right now, so Tegan, you'll know more than me, but I don't know if it's Stephen Porges was saying about the connection that we make with our eyes, and the way that we there's like a higher our nervous systems are like really ancient, but now they've kind of noticed like a development of evolution in our species and how we connect more, which is social engagement, social connection. And obviously it's done through the eyes, and how the muscles of the eyes contract. And if you think about COVID and what that did to society, the ramifications are still happening now, because I don't know if you saw a post, there was such a weird experience going into the supermarket. Does anyone else feel that, or is it just me being a bit of a paranoid person? But the supermarket, I feel, is the place when COVID struck, everybody was like so weird in there. I don't know. And like eye contact, I just find it really odd place to be in the supermarket. Nobody makes eye contact. Everybody's like this on their trolleys. And when COVID happened, I noticed, we'd be walking the dog or whatever, and everybody like felt weird, like making eye contact with each other and saying hello. It's probably one of the biggest ramifications, apart from financial, that I feel like the pandemic had, was the disconnection of the social engagement, and it's caused so many mental health ramifications, hasn't it, T? Do you notice that? As I'm sure you know more studies that have been done.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, you're spot on with what Stephen Porges says. It's all related to polyvagal theory, and we connect to each other through eye contact. Obviously, this is not comfortable for everybody to do, but during the pandemic, we lost quite a bit of that, really, didn't we, in terms of actually being out and about. But I'd be really interested to see how that's going to affect babies who were born during that period, because they were only seeing eyes. And no other facial expressions as well. But with the eyes, eye gaze can be perceived as a threat unless you're in that welcoming state. And certainly there's more social anxiety since the pandemic as well, isn't there? So for some people, what's really interesting is, for some people, that was a really traumatic time, exacerbated traumas that they were already experiencing. But then for other people, they would say the complete opposite, and that they had, you know, they enjoyed that experience that they had. So it goes, 'cause quite a lot of times people have said, well, is COVID a trauma then, to me? And I would say, well, I can't answer that because it's subjective for everybody.
Yeah, it's just like another form of the ACEs, isn't it? It's the internalization of an event rather than the actual event itself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's really important to think about who was surrounding us during that time as well. What were our relationships like? Who was with us directly? All of that is, you know, key to kind of how we've perceived that situation, as with lots of kind of experiences that we go through. But it was really interesting what you were talking about, Ellen, in terms of being in that freeze response and our physiology kind of stopping us from doing anything, and how you can return to that as a business owner, particularly if it's uncomfortable and it feels like it triggers that part of your response system to activate again. Most of the time, when we go back into our survival mechanisms, we actually rely on the one or two that have been successful in the past. So you'll notice actually that there's not really one set response that you might go down. So one time you might go into that disruptor mode, that fight mode. The next time it might be more into that freeze response. But most of the time we tend to go to the one that has promoted survival previously. And there's a really interesting one, which is the flop response. And it's one that not many people recognize, because you can't functionally live in that response. And I've only known it happen twice. You might have known it with amongst people that you know, but it's a really interesting survival response where your body just completely shuts down and all of the muscles completely stop. And it actually happened to me once, and you're completely you're completely aware of everything, but your higher thinking brain is shut off, so you won't be able to respond or make any sense at that point, or think, oh, you know, what am I going to do in this situation? But your body just falls to the ground. You don't lose consciousness, you're still very much there. It's different to fainting. But again, it's about kind of, well, how am I going to survive this situation? And sometimes it's so that your nervous system is so overwhelmed, it just shuts down then.
Yeah. Is that the same as what they class as the bathroom floor moment, where you just fall to the floor? Yeah, like I've experienced that, and it's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, and panic attacks and different ways that something takes over. It's like, wow, who is actually running the show here? It's actually your nervous system, isn't it?
Like I had a great metaphor for it once, around it being like a library. You've got a library in your brain, and all of these stories are books that get stored in your brain. And I'm probably going to not articulate this very well now, but I'll do my best. Stories related as books, and they get stored on these shelves in your brain. And we can when we experience something similar, we can go back to our bookshelf and say, oh, we've had this experience before. But some experiences can't be stored, and those are the experiences that overwhelm us, those experiences that are adverse, are traumatic, and so they end up on the librarian's desk instead. And when that librarian's desk gets too piled high, layers of that subtle trauma, they press the kind of security button underneath that activates our amygdala and sends out this threat response to our body, that then is like the orchestra of our body and takes over to get us through those experiences until we can reach a state of equilibrium again. And the body's stress response should normally be self-limiting, which means that it should actually go back to equilibrium once the perceived threat is out the way. But for those who experience chronic stress and trauma, that's not the case. They will live with a kind of a heightened stress response at all times. So their allostatic load becomes an allostatic overload. And their baseline, where most of us, the majority of us, our baseline is equilibrium, their baseline isn't. it's at that kind of toxic stress level, and that does lead to the functional states of surviving, where you're always at, always in that survival state.
Yeah, that's amazing. And before, because I could talk all day around this subject. Would anybody like to say anything? 'Cause I'll zip it for a minute.
Hi everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Fascinating. Thank you so much, Tegan. I've just been making notes. That was brilliant. Yeah, really, really, really appreciate that. Thank you. The people that were on the call on Wednesday know that I shared my story on Wednesday, and feeling an awful lot better since then. Michelle, who was on the group with us then, who can't make it today, we had a session. Oh, a cat. Sorry. Next door cat's just come in and scared me. There you go. Yeah, so my question that it's just sort of popped into my head around trauma, and acknowledging whether it's yourself that acknowledges that maybe there's some work to be done, or whether it's somebody else you recognise there might be work to be done. What's most important, would you say, Tegan, in terms of like what comes first in the trauma recovery? Is it the connection with others in terms of whether that's professional support or even saying to somebody, look, I don't think something's quite right? Or is it connecting with your own body first? Does our body have a way of like choosing which one is right for us?
Oh, that's a great question, Emily. Thanks so much. So, I mean, I suppose my answer would be very much similar to the same way trauma is subjective. The way that we start our healing journey can be subjective as well. So for some people, those initially looking at those somatic practices that Caroline and Ellen have mentioned would be really beneficial. For other people, jumping straight into that could be triggering. So we talk a lot about breath work in wellness. Now breath work can be amazing and great and transformative for people, but it can be incredibly triggering for people if they are not at the stage of being able to process that trauma. So I always use the example of when we're telling people to take a long breath and hold that breath. Well, what might they have been through before where they've had to do something similar, or where there's been really uncomfortable, traumatic, distressing experiences relating to the breath? We can hold a lot of trauma there. There's practices around vocal toning as well. Again, so powerful, but we hold a lot of trauma in our voices, because how many people were told to be quiet as a child and not be heard, only be seen, so there's all of that as well. So really, I suppose the key is sitting with yourself, feeling that feeling of discomfort, starting to feel uncomfortable, starting to feel comfortable with that uncomfort, but then also thinking to yourself, okay, well, what part of this trauma, what part of the story can I work on now to begin my healing journey? And I actually think, I mean, there's the saying, isn't there, that hurt people hurt people. I think it's a lot more nuanced than that, if I'm honest. But I think that healing people heal people. And I say healing because I don't know if we ever become fully healed. We will work on ourselves for the rest of our lives, won't we? Hopefully, we're very reflective. We're always going to find something that we could work on. And surrounded by all of you today doing such amazing work, you're key to healing people as well. You're healing yourselves and you're on that journey. So supporting somebody else where you feel like there could be something there, you are right there, Emily, you absolutely need to create that connection. First and foremost, you need to create a therapeutic alliance where that person will feel psychologically safe with you. That can take a long time. If somebody hasn't experienced that previously, if they haven't felt safe in the presence of another human being in their lives, that can take a very long time. But if you're consistent with them, if you're there at the same time each week, you create a structure around them that feels safe, that's a really good place to start. And then to be able to have those conversations and have that support around you, where you are able to refer into maybe more therapeutic interventions that might be needed for complex trauma, or trauma that person is really struggling with. If you have those mechanisms, that will provide that level of safety for that person and for yourself as well. But it really is about connecting in, helping someone feel psychologically safe, which is, as I say, it can take a long time, but it's really worth it if you are consistent with your messaging, your warmth in the way that you respond, and appreciate that we are all human beings and we all have these innate human experiences. We are emotional, we're complex, we're messy, and actually that, we're going to have different responses depending on the day that we catch people, aren't we? Remembering that as well, that's key. So yeah, absolutely connection, but remembering it's the subjectivity of that person as well, and the way that they're going to respond to you being part of their healing journey.
Thank you. That's really, really helpful. Appreciate that.
I think as coaches and therapists and healers, whatever label we put on ourselves, the biggest breakthroughs that you will have with a client is based on the connection that you have. And that's not to say, your best mates or anything like that, but it is quite a privileged position you find yourself in, because quite often clients have said to me, I've never shared that before. And, to witness that in somebody, you're providing something that you can't really teach anyone else. We all have our own unique way of holding space for other people, but we are in such a privileged position when we hear that from somebody. And trust and vulnerability, for me, I had not a great experience once when I was going through the dark night of the soul, and I went for kind of clinical psychotherapy, and the psychotherapist was basically wanted to get me on the therapist's couch. Now, to me, that was the worst thing that they could ever have presented me with, because they were trying to put me in a place of I was already so low and vulnerable, but I'd always been so strong. So them to try and get me in an actual physical position where I was lower than them was just a complete no-no. And the extra psychological damage that did to me, for me to even conceive of facing that physical disempower, it was just weird. Tegan probably explain it much better, but psychologically I could not be in a place of vulnerability. So we have to consider the environment that we're putting our clients in. What do we have in our space when we're showing up on Zoom? Do we have bottles of alcohol in the background? That can be a trigger. We've got to really think about, even if it's online, you can feel that person and they can feel you. Think about the space of trust that you're setting for your client. And it's important to always know that the client feels that they also do have you outside of that hour session or however you run it. Because quite often breakthroughs will occur right at the end of the session. And it's like, oh shit, so and like we've talked before on the other sessions about charging your worth and all that, but forget that. Like your client is and the connection that you have with your client is the most important part of the session. And forget money, forget anything, all of that goes out the window. You must be there in the right capacity for your client, especially if they're having kind of breakthroughs? Does that resonate? Thank you for that question, Emily. Let's open it up and see if we have any more.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Sonia, and I've been here. I'm so thankful I've been here all week with all of you wonderful people.
Oh, it's lovely to have.
So one of the things that I'm getting emotional. One of the things that I sort of noticed from what you're saying is I was getting triggered by all the comments, and I was ready to leave, and I thought, no, you need to look at what is going on here. So one of the things that I noticed was when you were when Tegan was talking about just sort of collapsing in your nervous system, just not being there for you basically anymore. I sort of had something like that happen to myself. I had so many things happening, big life events. And it was during COVID as well. So it was, my mother passed away. My daughter went off to university. I sold my home. I moved to another province. I'm in Canada. And so I moved 3 provinces away. One of the reasons I had moved closer was because that's where my mother was living, but then she passed away. So I sold my house. I bought a new house. I got a new job. The people that I was working with, they weren't very inviting. It wasn't a great environment. It was a good job. I'm a registered nurse, and I was working for the government doing inspections and stuff. And I was trying to get away from nursing per se. So I went into sort of more an administrative, but that didn't help. And my daughter had said for years and years, you hate this job. What are you continuing to do this? And it was because I had raised her by myself, and it always been, financial thing had always sort of been a worry. And it gave me a regular income and everything. But over the years, I had taken all these different courses into more natural health and healing and different things. And that's what I wanted to do. But anyways, at one point, okay, so it was during COVID. So I moved to a new place. I couldn't go anywhere, do anything, meet any new people. I was totally alone. I was so isolated. And then at one point, so let me see, I had been living there for, oh my gosh, it wasn't even a year. And I totally broke down. I just couldn't take it anymore. And my my therapy was to drive across the country. Now, I don't know, I think this is about 5,000 kilometers. So I'm at one end of the country. I left work, and I just could not deal anymore. And I left. Just said to my boss, I can't take this. I was just broke down in her office, and I left and went to the other coast of Canada where my brother lived and where my sister my daughter happened to be at the time. And anyway, that seemed really strange, but it seemed to have worked for me. But I'm just wondering, I'm sure I have a lot of trauma stuff still going on. And what's happened is I have since moved. It's funny that we're talking here because I'm at this cottage at the ocean where where I was living in, but I had moved back to the area where I had been in. So I moved again and everything, and I'm much happier there. Where was I going now?
So do you feel
lost my train of thought.
It sounds like you're curious about yourself and your triggers.
Yeah. Well, this is where I was going. I was so when I moved back to where I had originally been, or the area that I had been in, I applied for another nursing job, which I got. And I thought, what am I doing? I kept asking myself, what am I doing? So, the universe or creator, whatever you want to call it, gives you what you need, right? So I moved, and again, so 2 years. It was only 2 years that I moved back, and I started this new job. And as soon as I walked into the building, I thought, oh my God, I'm not going to be here long. So I was working a month, and I didn't know what to do. I had no answers for myself. So the universe gave me an answer. I broke my ankle.
Oh,
So I broke my ankle. The universe is saying, sit and reflect and figure it out, because I can't do anything else now with the broken ankle. So that's what I did. And that happened last summer. And it's been actually wonderful, because you go from an event that you think is really horrible, like breaking your ankle and not knowing what to do, just buying a new house and not getting any money and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? And what this has done is allowed me to do a lot of soul searching. And I've met one person who was really wonderful to talk to. He's gone through a lot of soul searching and whatnot himself, and he's really great at asking the right questions so that you can answer them for yourself. He's really great. But I haven't actually spoken to him in a few weeks. But one of the things that I noticed about myself is that I don't have that enthusiasm and that excitement. I haven't started the business yet, but I would like to within, by the end of the summer. And I'm excited, but I don't have that same sort of joy and enthusiasm and stuff that I would like to have. And then there was another, I guess this has been quite a while ago now, about 15 years ago, where I had wanted to start my own practice. It's medical health, it's a system of homeopathy. And I had, every time I was really enthusiastic about it and about to start it. And there was a court case that had come up at that time. And so when I thought the court case had sort of died, had sort of gone away, I would put all my energy into, once again, starting this business. And then I get slam dunked with this court case again. And this happened like 3 times, to the point where I said, I'm not starting this business anymore. It had nothing to do with the court case. It just was related, the timing of it was related to this trauma with this court case. And so I don't know if I'm, every time I feel enthusiastic about it, subconsciously that negative energy from that court case is there. I'm not sure, but anyway, these are all my thoughts that I've been thinking since today, and I've been here all week, and all week I've just been all happy and everything, listening to everybody, and this time it was like bam.
Yeah, I love that. I think what you said is a lesson for us all in it, to be honest, Sonia, because funnily enough, I was thinking similar on the same lines this morning around we become so attached, like I don't know why, but I thought phones and the internet and everything was so attached to it. What would happen if that were taken away from us for, say, a week, and we didn't have the connection to technology? A lot of the young ones, would have a complete meltdown for a few days. But then what would they do? They'd find themselves again, and they'd reconnect with part of themselves that they are disconnecting with. They'd reconnect with their imagination, they'd reconnect with their creativity, they'd reconnect with themselves, their body experiences. Because quite often, if you're watching telly or you're watching the internet and you're eating, you don't even know you've finished your meal by the time you finish. So there's something in the stillness to being able to really reflect on what your next steps will be, on what you want to be. So I've been reflecting on that myself. Now, with the experiences that you're going through and the excitement needed to create the business, I also think quite often in this, anything, it's about timing. It really is. Like, I know people want to get things started, they want to get things moving, myself included. But a lot of it, I do believe, comes down to the right time. And again, you can check in with your body. Is this the right time for this project, this business to start? You know, if I start this business, or you can actually, there's a way to ask your body for the yes and the no. And that is to tell your body, because it doesn't know the difference between real or fake. Tell your body you've started the business. I've started the business now, and it's all good, it's happening. And see what happens inside your body. If it feels a yes, no.
I've sort of done that where I've started, but I kind of go, well, this is happening whether you're ready or not. Just like, you know, this is happening, and I'm going through the motions and through the steps and through the, you know, I'm taking the meditation course right now, and plan on taking some others as well, and with my other, and it's like, no, it's time, you know, if you're not going to do it, if you're going to do it, you have to do it now. That's, you know, that's just,
it's
so I'm trying to prepare myself to
just, you know, there's something else around that I was going to say before, around all the stuff that I was saying I was experiencing. It's hallucination. You know, a lot of the time we can be in a state of hallucination, not seeing the reality of a situation. And, you know, especially when we've had trauma, you know, and we get these triggers and stuff. And like T was saying, that's not necessarily happening in the here and now. But because we're reliving an experience, we can go into a state of, you know, disillusion, hallucination, if you like, where we don't really see what reality is. And our brains, because we, you know, we can think this way, then think the next day, you know, it's like we've just got this constant ping pong going on in our head. Your body will tell you the truth. Your mind, you know, will take you from thinking, you know, black and white thinking, to creativity and imagination. You know, we can tap into different lobes in our brain, which are responsible for different things. But in your body will tell you if it's time. Yeah, so thanks for sharing that, Sonia, and thanks for being here with us as well.
Oh, thank you as well. It's been a great week.
Yeah, thank you. Does anybody have anything else? I know there's a lot of chat going on, so if anybody has anything they'd like to offer to us, or even the panelists, if there's anything you'd like to offer, just chirp in.
I just kept feeling a question for Sonia when you were both talking, and Sonia, you said, what am I doing? You said that a few times, and it's probably, you know, past as well as present. But my question is, what am I being? That is something that is a lot deeper, and, you know, you really feel in your body, and that's where, you know, what Anne-Marie was talking, and if your business is really what you're being, not doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just a second. They're cutting the grass outside. I have to close
Oh,
the door.
okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So the question is, instead of
What am I doing? What am I being?
Oh, what am I going to do would be what am I
being? Yeah. So you
What am
feel
I-
that in your body when you ask that question. It's less from your head, it comes from your body.
Yes, I like that, actually. What am I being?
Mm.
This is kind of more like, who am I, instead of what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
What am I being?
Also connected to that, what am I being, which I love, I think that's great, is I was reading something before on the I can't actually remember the name of the book, but it was written by individuals who were with people at their last moments in life.
Right.
And the main regret. Oh, I think it was called The 5 Regrets of the Dying or something like that.
Bonnie something.
Yeah, that was it.
Bonnie, yeah.
And the main regret, and actually one that is spoken about in the Michael Mead book, Fate and Destiny. Oh, I don't know if anyone's read that. Great book. It's the 2 Agreements of the Soul, I think it's called. Is actually around, well, the only story that we came here to live is our own. Did we become ourselves at the end of our life? Have we become ourselves? That's what the main story is. And actually that was one of the biggest regrets of people, that they didn't get that chance to become themselves. So it's really humbling to have that information now, and actually really really consider that moving forward, isn't it? And the other thing that I just wanted to offer out as well is, when working with others and supporting others, a really important element of that, in my opinion, is to consider vicarious trauma amongst all of that. So you're going to be holding people's stories for them. You're going to be listening to trauma. You're going to be listening to distress and pain and discomfort from other people. And if you work with that person once, so you don't build a relationship with them, you see them once and they share that story, then it puts you at risk of secondary traumatic stress. If you see that person more than once and you start building that empathic relationship with them, it puts you at risk of vicarious trauma. And it's really important to acknowledge and understand what vicarious trauma is, because there's research out there that shows us that vicarious trauma can be prevented and mitigated against if you know what vicarious trauma is, if you know what some of those symptoms are. And the symptoms are insidious and they can seep into workplace, they can seep into your personal life. But if you have knowledge of that, that can really equip you well moving forward and actually act as this buffer against vicarious trauma. The other one, of course, is not going to be any surprise to any of you, because we've really spoken about this at length today, is connection. So having those powerful moments of connection outside of what you're doing, with other people that you love and care about and people that you can bounce ideas off of, is a key to protecting yourself against vicarious trauma. And it's an area that I'm really passionate about, and currently doing research with police officers and vicarious trauma at the moment. But I actually think, well, anybody who works with another human being is at risk of this, right? So it's good to tap into it now.
Yes, so vicarious trauma is where you take on the other person's trauma, really, and it affects your kind of system and your thoughts and everything. You know, you hold on to it, which is kind of empaths and just compassionate people. We have a tendency to relive what we've heard, and we can actually feel it in our own bodies, and it can affect us like the traumas happened to us. One of the things that you said there really does sum up really the work that I love and why I'm doing what I do, and probably why you all are here, is the fact that when we get to the end of life and we look back, it is a question, was I my truth? Did I live my full potential? And you think, don't you, crikey, like say, it's whose life are we living if we don't understand the conditioning that we've had and we don't choose to actually not go against it, but yeah, in a way go against it, maybe with a rebellious attitude, but within the context of safety. If we don't become our own trailblazer, we will end up potentially questioning our own authenticity. And if we have actually lived a life that you were meant to live, and all that is did I let go of other people's beliefs of me, and did I stand up for myself and live my full potential, whatever that is? It's a serious question to ask yourself every time you tell yourself a story around, I don't have the confidence. I fear doing this. What will my mother think? What will my father think? They're all valid questions, but you have to weigh that up with the level of desire that you have to become the person and do the thing that you want to do, whether that's a horse rider or a painter or a lawyer or a doctor, whatever it is, you have to have enough desire to be able to live life on your terms. So think about that question seriously. How do you want to end the rest? How, you know, the rest of your life? With that question answered with a thumbs up, as you're saying, peace out. Do you want to be like, yeah, I did, I rocked? Or you're like, no. Those people have long gone who I feared the judgments of, and yet I still didn't do it. So we're going to end it here, but if anybody has any closing thoughts, speak now.
I just wanted to say a huge thanks, Anne-Marie, to you, particularly, also to you know, all the panel. I know there's been different on different days. I asked a question on Tuesday and it was just really, really helpful. I think I'd spent weeks kind of ruminating on things, and it was just really helpful to have the panel's perspective and just kind of shake me out of that kind of like just loop that I'd been kind of stuck in. And I just think there's, you know, we've heard some, you know, really, a lot of people have been through a lot of, you know, challenging circumstances that they've, you know, felt, you know, courageous enough to share on these calls this week, which I think is, you know, really should be. That vulnerability is a huge sign of courage for me. I think, you know, we often we should recognise that the huge courage that people have shown in doing that, and it's been met with a huge, you know, abundance of, you know, compassion and support by everyone, you know, else on the call. And yeah, I guess I saw this, I'd done something on your academy back in lockdown, so I think I was on an email list. This email came through about this coaching week, and I thought, oh, you know, that sounds interesting, and I kind of thought I'd give it a go on Monday and see how it goes, and then I've been like hooked all week.
Oh, that's so
And
good to know.
I just think, you know, even though I haven't felt the need to ask any more questions, I just want to say thank you, because I think it's been a lovely space to be part of.
It's been brilliant, and it's made that way by you guys showing up here, because we couldn't have done it without you. So, you know, this is what we love to do, and we love to deliver, and we love to show you, you know, the power of actually being in a group, holding space, being with each other, no judgment. You know, we do our best as humanly possible to leave our biases at the door. We've all been through shit. You know, and we're all here to support each other. But yeah, thanks so much for your feedback. It's definitely something that I want to continue to do. It shows all the potential that all the coaches can deliver as well. So thank you. I mean, I will ask if that's okay. If you guys drop a comment on the Soul Awakening Academy page that I can use for feedback and use in social media, just to say how you found it, and if you want us to continue to do more. But thank you so much. And thank you for all the amazing panelists as well. You've given your time, and, you know, you've given such a wealth of your expertise as well. So I thank you. And it's been a great week. I've loved it. Yeah. Oh, Sarah says, thank you. It's helped so much. I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. It's been just an awesome week. Can I take a picture of us all? All right. There you go. Yeah, anybody who doesn't want to be on, just do your camera off. Are you ready? Oh, hang on, it's not working. One sec. Oh no, it has. Oh, thank you. Oh, much love to everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you sharing the space with me. Take care, ladies. Lots of love.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.